Hello, I'm going to be showing my Iname Death Aspect deck. This is a version of the deck that's meant for high power casual games. Uh, I personally think this deck struggles against high interaction, but that's the case with any mono black, like all in reanimator deck. Uh, if you're looking for a super high consistent deck, probably go for at least Demir deck. But if you just want to speed stuff out, this is for you. So first we got Iname Death Aspect, the commander. Iname Death Aspect is a very important card in this deck because it's how you fill your yard. Uh, the only thing this card is weak to is counterspells. Removal doesn't matter because you do not care about the 4/4 body. Iname Death Aspect is 4 and 2 black for a 4/4 legendary creature spirit. When Iname Death Aspect enters the battlefield, you may search your library for any number of spirit cards and put them into your graveyard. If you do, shuffle your library. So, as you can guess, running a lot of spirits. But first, let's start things out with the mana base. So, I've run a few different mana bases. I've tried using a million utility lands. I don't really like it. Um, I'm running 29 swamps. Actually, I think it's 28 swamps. Yeah, 28 swamps. Um, they're pretty solid. I mean, there's a spirit in this deck that has swamp synergies, so you do want to run more swamps than not. The non-swamp lands I have are utility or additional ramp. So, City of Traders is kind of like burst mana. It taps for 2 colorless, but when you play a land, you have to sacrifice City of Traders. So you effectively only get it for 2 turns if you aren't missing land drops. It's good for just getting Iname out a turn earlier than you expect. Uh, yeah. Also, if you play City of Traders and then get Iname out, you'll generally have 5 mana after that. And some of the or 2 of the mass recursion spells are 5 mana, so you won't need the 6 going into the next turn. That's notable. There's then Castle Lochthwain. Castle Lochthwain relies on you having more swamps than not. It's just card advantage if you run out of cards in your hand. There isn't too many utility lands in this deck, so I thought Castle Lochthwain would make the cut. Shizo Death Storehouse is a land that just gives a creature fear until end of turn. This card's expensive. Uh, there's not really much upside on it compared to a swamp, so I wouldn't say focus on getting this card at all. It's just a cool land that I have. Peat Bog is burst mana. So ETB is tapped with 2 depletion counters, and you can remove a depletion counter and add 2 black. If there's no depletion counters on it, though, sacrifice it. So it's just to get Iname and your big spells out as fast as possible. Don't play it early. Play it turn 3, 4 if you have ramp. Try to use it on the casting of Iname or other spells. Uh, Takanuma Abandoned Mire is a land that you can use to mill 3 and return creatures from your yard to hand. So if there's something you really want in your hand, then you can get it back. Uh, yeah. There's also a lot of legendary spirits in here. So let's say you did the Iname thing and there's spirits on the board. It'll only be 1 black, and you can use it to loop something. Witch's Cottage can loop stuff, kind of. It's not infinite, of course, because you can't infinite loop in mono black of lands. I don't know. I'm not running any. Uh, and it enters tapped unless you control 3 or more other swamps. So before turn 4, this is not going to be entering untapped. If it enters untapped, though, you can put a creature card from your graveyard on top of your library. So that's useful. Um, then, really important land here, Crypt of Agadim. If you can get this land, that's huge because it enters tapped, but it taps for a black, and you can pay 2 and tap it and add black equal to the amount of black creatures in your yard. So with Iname, in this deck, you can get up to 15 mana with this. So that's going plus 12 on mana. Pretty good. There's then Bajuka Bug. Play Graveyard Hit. Do it. This deck's an example why you should. Yeah. If people don't play Graveyard Hit, this deck wins. So the next package we have is Tutors. Tutors. This is mono black. Mono black loves tutors. These help you find the combo pieces that you need. So, Vampiric Tutor lets you tutor anything to the top of your deck. You lose 2 life, 1 mana. Classic Tutor. Demonic Tutor, the Tutor. 2 mana, something's in your hand. Insidious Dreams. Now, this is a funky one. You can pay 3 in a black. It's an instant, and as an additional cost, discard X cards from your hand. So the discard cards, generally you use that to clear out any big spirits you have stuck in your hand because you want them in the graveyard, and it's really hard to get them out of your hand otherwise. I used to run more burst draw, so you could discard the hand size to get rid of them, but burst draw is a lot better at high power levels, and I decided more like Phyrexian Arena style draw would be better at low. So Insidious Dreams got more important there. It tutors X cards to the top of your library, and then you put them back in any order. So if you have a way to mill, there is one of the spirits mills. So if you, let's say you Insidious Dreams, the next turn you Iname. Oh, I guess no, not that. The next turn you just get the spirit out of the yard after Inameing and all that. So you want the Insidious Dreams, stack your library, mill it, draw it, whatever. And it can get more than one. I'd say the most I've gotten like actually is 4 before, but with the current iteration of the deck, I wouldn't expect to get more than 3. Um, there's Mastermind's Acquisition. This is just a fancy Diabolic Tutor. It has an extra thing for outside of the game, but I don't play anything outside the game. I just thought it sounded cool. Final Parting. Very good card. 5 mana. Search for 2 cards. Put 1 in your hand, 1 in the graveyard. Very often you're searching a card that I'll go over later, Grey Merchant Vasphodel, and a mass recursion spell or a single target spell if you already have things in the yard. Because let's say you Iname, and then you do the mass recursion, but you draw Final Parting later. Just get the reanimate, uh, get the Gary in yard, and you basically just paid 6 mana to get Gary out, and that's fine. Gary will be very good. Mausoleum Secrets. This is a card that searches your library for a black card with CMC less than or equal to the number of creatures in your graveyard. Reveal it. Put it in your hand, and then shuffle your library. This is good for finding the Mass Recursion spell after you Iname. It's also good for if you only have like 1 card in there, you can search for a couple utility spells like Songs of the Damned, which I'll go over in the future. So that is the tutor package. Next, I'll go over the general card advantage package. So there's Night's Whisper, Phyrexian Arena, Underworld Connections, Siphon Mind, and Morbid Opportunist. So Underworld Connections isn't the most high-ish power level. It's good with Gary, and it gives you cards, so that's cool. But it is kind of just a worse Phyrexian Arena, and Phyrexian Arena isn't exactly an all-star. I would recommend Black Market Connections. That card's probably just a lot better, and it is just a lot better. I'm not running Black Market Connections right now for really no good reason. I don't know, but Underworld Connections, I just like it. Night's Whispers, draw 2, lose 2. It's just good early game card draw. This deck has some consistency issues, so getting the card draw early really helps you smooth stuff out. Siphon Mind makes each other player discard a card, and you draw a card for each card discarded this way. Watch out for this one a little bit, because when they discard cards, if they know your bullshit, then they can discard big old beaters to try to reanimate them with your mass recursion. So be careful of that. But drawing 3 cards for 4 mana is still solid. So yeah. Morbid Opportunist is a card draw engine of 3 mana for a 1/3. Whenever one or more creatures die, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. He's a blocker. A lot of times you don't have money or early game creatures out. So having a 1/3 that can just block and incidentally draw you cards when other creatures are dying is pretty solid. The next package we have up is Burst Mana. So there used to be a lot more of this if you're going for like higher power, because you need to get everything done super fast, but this is more mid, so I don't really care too much about Burst. I'm not like running Rain of Filth or anything to sacrifice my swamps. So we have Bubbling Muck. This is High Tide, but for swamps. Really good. High Tide's really good. Bubbling Muck's really good. Shocker. So So all of your swamps will, everybody's swamps will tap for an additional black. So let's say you play this turn 4, you can cast Iname. People may, like, let's say you have 7 lands out. People will think you can't do anything, or you can't, like, win because you'll just cast Iname and have 2 mana left. Well, nope, Bubbling Muck says you'll have 12 mana, and you can cast Iname into a Mass Recursion spell. So, yeah. Songs of the Damned. Add 1 black for each creature in your graveyard. Iname will give you a lot of creatures in your yard. Up to, I think it's 15. This is a plus 14 1 mana spell then. Pretty good. You can use it earlier game too if you have a few creatures in your yard just to get the stuff out. There's Dark Ritual, 1 black, add 3 black, classic. Everyone knows what it does. It's just good at getting things out earlier than they're supposed to be. Soldevi Adnate is actually huge in this deck. So Iname being 6 mana and all the mass recursion spells being 5 or 6 mana means that Soldevi Adnate, so it's 1 and a black, 1/2, tap, sacrifice a black or artifact creature, add an amount of black equal to that creature's casting cost to your mana pool. So you can just play Iname, sack Iname, send Iname to yard or command zone if you don't know if it'll get countered or not. Then cast your mass recursion spell and you get all the creatures back, including Iname too, but just a 4/4, who cares? But that's just a big burstiness and people need to watch out. It also, you can just repeat this all the time. Like one thing I did was, you can, let's say you have spirits stuck in your hand and you'd have to give up your turn to play them pretty much, just so that they aren't stuck in your hand the entire game. You can just play them and then sack them, and you keep the mana basically, and they're in your yard now. So you pretty much just discarded them, and that's solid. And you can use this guy to just get really strong turns off. You can also make him sacrifice himself and just be 2 mana later, which isn't the worst. 2 free mana, that's like a Dark Ritual. Next package we have is Consistent Mana. Woo! So 6 mana commander, you're trying to cast 12 mana and spells on 1 or 2 turns often. So we got some mana here. Arcane Signet, everyone knows that one. Just a good signet. Worn Power Stone. It comes in tapped for 3 mana, but it taps for 2. Play this in turn 3. Turn 4, you have 4 lands, 2 mana here. You can play an on my turn 4. Pretty solid. Jet Medallion. All black spells cost 1 less. Because you're trying to cast multiple spells in a turn, this is often 2 or more reduction, and then it's just a great card. Leadenmere, probably the most replaceable of these effects because it's a creature, and it's also not a spirit. Just a 1/1, tap for a black. It is colored mana, so that's nice. Mindstone, it's colorless, but you can sack it to draw a card, which is cool. Charcoal Diamond comes in tapped, gives you a black, it's alright. Soul Ring, everyone loves Soul Ring, 2 mana, gets everything done well. Mana Crypt. Mana Crypt is something you might want to cut if you want it to be lower power, because this can get you going very fast. Yeah, I mean, it's Mana Crypt. It's super powerful. Thran Dynamo. It's you're trying to do a lot of stuff in one turn with like big mana. Thran Dynamo is big mana. You get 3 additional. You can do with that what you will. It's pretty good. Next package. So this will be the interaction portion. So for removal in the interaction portion, we have Infernal Grasp. Destroy target creature, you lose 2 life. Snuff Out. This will be a free spell. You have to pay 4 life, though, and you can destroy target non-black creature. It can't be regenerated. Oubliette. It lets you deal with pesky commanders. You just phase them out, and they're not coming back unless somebody has enchantment removal. So get anyone that's not playing green or white, good luck. Feed the Swarm. This is how you get rid of enchantments. If someone plays a Rest in Peace, you tutor for Feed the Swarm. You can't play the game if someone's playing Rest in Peace. Good luck. Defile. -1/-1 for each swamp you control. It's fun. It kind of scales as the game goes. So if someone plays like a big booty creature early on, I guess it's kind of hard to kill, but like most of the time you can like get their birds if you want, or later in the game you can kill anything. Toxic Deluge, the one board wipe in the, well, not the one board wipe, but the one like true board wipe in the deck. Just, people are killing you. Stop it. Then we have Imp's Mischief, which will change the target of a spell with a single target. You lose life equal to the spell's mana value. Good against things like counters or removal. Yeah, that's about it. It's a solid thing. Uh, it's great to like not even against the person that's doing it to you, but like let's say someone has a stacks piece or something on the board, like rest in peace that's stopping you. Somebody plays a removal spell that can like hit anything, but they don't want to get rid of the rest in peace, so they get rid of something of yours, or maybe just somebody else's that you don't care about. Switch it to the rest in peace. You know, there's Mischief, good card. Leyline of the Void, Graveyard Hate. Play Graveyard Hate. Leyline of the Void's really good. Uh, in this deck especially, you want to play Graveyard Hate that is asymmetrical and hurts. Like Leyline of the Void's amazing because it just stops any of your opponents from having anything in the yard. So all of your mass recursion spells that recur everyone's yard, they don't recur anything. It's just you. It's the you show. Everyone loves that. Contamination. This card's really mean. If you're trying to play this in like a fun, super chill, casual environment, cut it. Don't make people play against this. Cut this for that black market connections or anything. Want a Mask of Gristlebrand? Put it here. Yeah. Basically, if somebody's not playing mono black, they are playing mono black, and good luck to them. You have to sacrifice a creature to keep it around, but there are creatures that can recur themselves in this deck, primarily Bloodghast. Bloodghast can make people kind of annoyed with this card. Very annoying, very strong though if you're trying to win. Mass Recursion Suite. There are 3 cards that are mass recursion in this deck: Living Death, Patriarch Spitting, Twilight Skull. They all have upsides, but my favorite's Living Death. Living Death basically has everyone swap their graveyard in the battlefield, creature-wise. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty awesome. Every player exiles all cards from his or her graveyard, sacrifices all creatures they control, and puts the rest onto the field. Unless somebody has immediate, like, enter the battlefield effects from their cards, they're not really going to gain value if you're doing this with your whole yard in the bin because of Kuro. Which I'll go over later. He will just stop them from doing anything with their stuff. Patriarch Spitting. Each player chooses a creature type, then returns all creatures. So this is good for if people actually do have stuff in their yards, and they're not playing a tribal deck or something, then you just get all the value, they get 1 or 2 things back. They'll get the things they want, but you still get way more. Also 5 mana, so these 2 are 5. This one is 6 and can be 8, but it is neat that it can be 8 because 6 mana, sorcery, each player returns all creature cards from his or her graveyard to play. Just pure mass recursion. But you can pay 8 instead of 6, and it'll be an instant, which is really good if you just have the mana. I don't often do the instant thing, but when I can, I will, because as a little trick, it's so good. Targeted recursion. Targeted recursion isn't that great in this deck because you're not really doing combos at all. There's no infinites in this deck in the current iteration. I took them out, just I felt like it. But these are good for targeting things like just a Gary or a Kuro by himself will still be amazing. So Animate Dead, enchantment. The creature comes back, it gets -1/-0 though. It's still amazing. Victimize lets you sacrifice a creature, so you can sack Iname if you used Iname to tutor 2 things to the yard, or you can sack a Bloodghast if you don't want to really have to sacrifice anything, and you just get 2 creatures back. If you want this deck to be slightly more powerful, you could include like a Buried Alive and an A+B, but that also comes with inconsistency inherent because you're playing bricks, and there isn't too much discard fodder or discard outlets in this deck, so Victimize is still solid, though, for getting things like Kuro plus Cryptghast back, which are just cool. Or Kuro plus Hirobi, which is like the murder combo. I'll go over later. Reanimate, often used with Gary. If Gary's in the yard, Reanimate, you can also do it with other things like Cryptghast, but Gary, I try to have this guy for. You have to pay life equal to the converted mana cost, or you lose life, you don't pay it, but yeah. Just some payoff cards next. Yeah. So these are just some payoffs. Phyrexian Reclamation. It is good for looping things out of your yard once you finally have a yard going. It can also be used as like not just a payoff, but let's say things die, just bring it back. Good, really, really good with Gary if you have the mana. Because sometimes with things like Crypt of Agadim, you'll be able to do your thing and then still have like 10 mana floating. So you can just do a couple loops of that, and it's just some nonsense. Tombstone Stairwell, probably the weirdest card in this deck. So, 2 and 2 black, World Enchantment, cumulative upkeep, 1 and 1 black. During each upkeep, each player puts a tomb spawn token. So it's basically you make a zombie with haste that sacrifices or gets destroyed at end of turn. Yeah. So they all get destroyed at the end of every turn. So let's say you have 15 creatures in your yard. You play Tombstone Stairwell. It'll have to go around the table, but it happens every turn. You'll create 15 zombies. 15 zombies will die. You'll create 15 zombies. 15 zombies will die. If you have some kind of let's say you add like a uh, effect that happens when a creature dies to this deck, which you could, this card becomes scarier. I haven't really found a reason to do that yet. It's kind of good on its own already, so I don't really care about win more there. Um, it's pretty fun, and if generally this is just removal fodder or counter fodder if I'm trying to delay the mass recursion, because people see this and they're like, oh, 15 tutus with haste when it comes to their turn. Maybe not. Fair. Um, a mana outlet here. Torment of Hailfire. So Crypt of Agadim, and Songs of the Damned. You may think it's a little overkill. Why do I need 15 mana sometimes? Well, even if you don't have a Mass Recursion spell, sometimes, even if you do, honestly, this can just win. So, Torment on 13, make everyone lose. I had 13 times 3 life, or sacrifice 13 permanents, or discard 13 cards, which they probably won't be able to do the discard and sacrifice non-land permanents thing all that much, and they'll end up taking a ton with nothing in their hand and nothing on their field. That's pretty good. So yeah. Whip of Erebos. Very good card, because some of the effects in this deck want you to pay a lot of life. Lifelink, awesome. Also, can recur creatures every turn. They get exiled if they would leave the battlefield and at end of turn with this card. But getting something back for a turn can be very good. You don't always need to have it forever. For example, Gary, Kuro, things like that. You can just use it once. Speaking of Gary, here's Gary. Gary's cool. 3 and 2 black, 2/4. When he ETBs, each opponent loses X life, where X is your devotion to black. You gain life equal to life lost this way. That's insane. If you do a mass recursion spell with Iname after you somehow get Kuro in the graveyard, or not Kuro, Gary in the graveyard, that's like 28, I think, on average. I don't know, around 28. So you'll gain like 80 something life. Yeah, 84 life. Yeah. That's pretty good. Blade of Selves with Gary as well. I took out the Infinites, but I added Blade of Selves for what is known as shits and giggles. Gary's 5 mana. Blade of Selves is 6. If you play Gary on turn 5, just getting it out, and nobody kills it because you just played a Gary for like no devotion or something, I don't know. People should be terrified of Gary, but if they for whatever reason aren't, and Gary survives around at the table, Blade of Selves, then you can equip it because it's 2 and then 4 to equip, and it gives it Myriad. Swing with a Gary, and then you create 3 more Garys, and they all see 8 pips because there's 4 of them. You're draining everyone for 24 at least, and then you're gaining that much more. And that's saying you have no other pips on board. If you have like a Phyrexian arena on board too, that's 30 drained. After draining 4 with the first Gary of the turn before. So yeah, Blade of Selves plus Gary, fun. I've only done it a couple times, but it's an absolute blast when you do. Then Skull Clamp. Can use on some of the spirits to draw cards. Pretty good. Liliana's Contract. 4 of the spirits are also demons in a way. I've never won with Liliana's Contract. I really want to. This is a casual variant of the deck, so I just throw it in there because it's fun. Also draws you 4 cards and loses 4 life. Cool. And 2 pips for Gary. Lockdown Warhammer. Lifelink's really important. This also, I don't know if this counts as lifelink. I'll have to check later. But yeah, whenever it deals damage, you gain that much life. So yeah, Bolsa Citadel. I'm not running the other combo pieces currently in this deck, but Bolsa Citadel, really good card. Uh, yeah, just you know, get it on the board, be the problem that you want to see in the world. It's kind of great. Now, finally, to the spirit package. Got 5 minutes to do this, so let's start with some of the fun ones. The most important spirits are going to be Kuro Pitlord, and I'd say Kokosho. I guess Junji too. But so Kuro, the all-star of the deck, combined with, let's bring it out here, another one called Hirobi Deathswale. Be a little careful though, because this makes everything you have vulnerable. So Kuro says pay 4 or sack him at the beginning of your upkeep. He's a 9/9 demon for 9, but you're never paying that mana. Well, I mean, not never, but you can pay 1 life, target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn. You are the board police. Kill everything everyone has. Dorks gone. Utility creatures gone. Yeah. You have ways to gain life, such as Kokosho, who can gain you 15. When he dies, everyone loses 5. Hirobi combined with Kuro makes it so you only have to pay 1 life per creature, because whenever a creature becomes target of a spell or ability, destroy that creature. That's pretty cool. And yeah, Junji. When Junji dies, another one that you might want Kuro to kill, return a non-dragon creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield under your control. You lose 2 life. Notably, Kokosho is a dragon. Cannot get Kokosho, but as with a lot of things in this deck, you can get Gary. So that's cool if you want more loops with him. Sometimes you run out of mana after getting like 1 Gary and it drains for 28, and then you're at 100 something life, but the person after you has a Crater Hoof plus token, make a turn, and you lose. So don't let them get another turn. Other spirits, Gravelighter. It can either draw you a card if a creature died already, or it can be a Fleshbag Marauder. Pretty cool. Eerie Soul Tender. Mills 3. You can also pay 4 and a black, exile it from your yard, and return another creature card from your graveyard to hand. Kind of desperate, but sometimes you're desperate. Nether Shadow. Notably, your graveyard order matters with this deck, so you have to track. Well, when this is in the yard, you have to track it. Because if there are at least 3 creatures above him, you may return Nether Shadow to play when you start your turn. So at the end of your upkeep, which is also a funny trigger at the end of your upkeep. Graveshifter. Notably, 1 demon, 2 demon because it's a changeling. This thing can return a creature from your graveyard to hand. Fun to loop stuff. Spirit Wizard, Moira or Borghaunt, yet again, can loop stuff, like Kokosho or Gary. Kagamaru First to Suffer. This guy can be annoying if you play him repeatedly, because you just wipe the board with him. Yeah. Kyoki, Sanity's Eclipse. 6/4, big old spirit. He has text box, but like, whatever. Target opponent removes a card from his or her hand. You can just make people exile their hands, but when are you casting the spirits after you already do the Iname thing? Because they're already in your yard and you're not really casting them. He's a 6/4 demon. Oh, these are the other 2 demons, by the way. So Kuro, Graveshifter, Kagamaru, and Kyoki are the 4 demons you have if you want to do the demon-y thing. Good luck with that. I don't think I've done that before. Maybe once. I can't remember. Bloodghast. Very good recurable creature. You can use him for stuff like Skull Clamp and Victimize. Yeah. Also good with a Lux on Warhammer, because why not? Midnight Banshee. This guy's just a big old beater with 3 black pips. Very important. Cryptghast. This guy's huge on ramp. Get a Cryptghast out, and you have all the mana you could ever want. You play it on turn 4. Go to turn 5. Let's say you have 5 swamps out. That's 10 mana. That's pretty good. Not including any other rocks you may have. Yeah, so you have a lot of mana. So that's the deck. It's mono black, mass reanimator. The game plan with this deck is to use your early turns to draw cards and make a lot of mana, set up burst mana, so that you can get in either 1 or 2 turns Iname plus a mass recursion spell on all these spirit boys, plus Gary. Have a good time.